Hi, everyone. It's Lisa from Been There, Got Out. And tonight's guest is a parenting coach. Her name is Melissa Schulz. And we often talk about high conflict divorce and dealing with all that. And there she is. And tonight we're going to be actually talking about high needs kids when you're dealing with chaos yourself. So hopefully this will work. She popped on a second ago. There she is. Can you see me, Melissa?
No, nope. But I can.
God. Okay. All right. Well, just guess. I can see you. Like I said, sometimes it happens this way. Yeah, we're gonna make it work.
No problem.
As long as we can hear you and your wisdom, that's the most important thing. Exactly. So I was saying that we're going to be talking about parenting high needs kids and the help that you need. But why don't, before you even introduce yourself, what does high needs kids mean? Like, don't all of us have high needs kids?
Yes, I think some kids just have higher needs than others. So some kids, like every once in a while, we get one of those easy kids where they just like listen right away and they really like to listen to adults. And maybe you know a friend that has one, or maybe you have one, and then your other two came out a lot differently. Yeah, some kids just need more. So maybe they're really strong-willed, maybe they're very sensitive, maybe they do have like a diagnosis like ADHD or autism that's just going to require more to teach them how the right ways to behave. And so that is kind of my passion, is helping those kids that do just need a little bit more expertise. They need a little bit more love to be able to help them really be successful.
Okay. So now formally introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Thank you. Yes, I am Melissa Schulz. So I am a parenting coach. I help parents yell less and smile more. My master's is in counseling. I'm a board certified behavior analyst. And what I do is I help parents of those strong-willed, very sensitive, or neurodivergent kids know exactly the best way to manage their child's behavior and build like a really great relationship with their kids.
Okay. So that's super helpful. But I think I told you that our community is dealing with very difficult co-parents. We also call them counter-parents. And often they get advice that, especially when they're divorced or going through separation or already divorced, that kids like this need consistency in both households. That is impossible for many of our people.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with parents when you're trying to help them with a kid, especially a high needs kids, and they're not on the same page?
Yeah, so I think that's where like the consistency is the ideal. Like if all of us parents can be consistent 100% of the time with every adult that interacts with your kid, like that would be the ideal. But then there's like actual real life. And often you can't make the school or both parents or counter parents on the same page. And so then you do the best with what is in your control. So then you make sure that when you have your kids and you are in charge of them, that you are being super consistent with what's best for them. And they're getting that consistency. And then just really like working on yourself to just know that that is like, you're doing the very best you can and giving them all you can, even when there's other things that you can't control in life.
Yeah. So what about triggers? Because our community is full of triggers. There's all kinds of trauma. Yeah. The kids have been traumatized. The parents are terrified that the kid is going into this unknown, well, not even an unknown, where they can't be a buffer and a shield anymore. And so there's this sense of panic and terror. Like, how do you help parents deal with their triggers, especially because their most important person, their kids or people, is now sent over with, often they feel like a monster.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to taking really good care of yourself and your own mental health as a parent. So really making sure that you are like processing all of your emotions around it. You are trying to hang on to like the most helpful thoughts that you can think that are going to get you the results that you want. And being that parent that the kid needs is all the times that you can, and being that safe place for them when they come back.
Okay. So any ideas on like examples? Like,
yeah,
how can I be that safe parent when they come back if I'm freaking out? Like, how do I regulate myself?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different for everyone. It kind of like this would be like where you really want to work with a professional that can help you identify what those triggers are specifically, what is like why that is so triggering. Sometimes we need to separate a little bit between like the actual facts and then like kind of what our emotional brain is telling us.
Oh, all the time. All the
Right.
time.
So yes. So like lots of journaling works really well for some people. Not everyone's a journaler, but I'll have some of my clients do an exercise where they just like dump everything from their brain into their journal. And then they can go, and there's no judgment, no filtering. They get it all out there. And then they go through and they're going to pick out, okay, now that I got it all out there, which ones are actually like helpful, true things that I need to believe in, which things maybe do I need to let go of? Maybe is that my emotions kind of talking? Because we don't make great decisions when we're using that, like our emotional brain. That's not like the rational part of our brain. So having really good practices to like help your brain be really well managed. And that way you have all of your energy to fight for your kids, fight for the factual things that really do need to change and happen. And you're not spending so much time spinning about maybe the emotional things or all like the what ifs that we can't change.
Yeah, and that we call like catastrophizing or awfulizing, which is very common. I do it myself a lot. So
it's very easy to get sucked into that.
Yeah, how does this connect to like the brain, our own brains being in fight or flight mode?
Yeah, so when our brains get triggered by chronic stress, which is very common if we've been in a really unhealthy relationship or maybe an unsafe relationship, our brains will easily get sent to fight or flight. The problem is though, sometimes our brains start interpreting a lot of things as danger that maybe not be danger. Like our fight or flight responses were kind of created more when there was like bears in the world. Like bears were a big problem, and we had to like really worry about the bears. So like our brain was always scanning the environment for things that were off or different because we didn't want to be eaten by a bear. And so even like a average brain that has not gone through like chronic stress is still always looking for what's wrong in our environment, like any changes, anything that is off. And then that can be triggered into, oh no, I'm in danger because there's a bear. And then when we are in chronic stress, our brain gets triggered there by a lot of things, and many of them might not be actually a danger. And so some of it is learning how to calm down our nervous system, regulate our nervous system better. There's like, I use a really great system called the Safe and Sound Protocol, which is actually like this filtrated music that you listen to that kind of helps restore your nervous system when it's been under chronic stress for a long time. And I use that with my clients when they find they're just constantly going right to that fight or flight, because you can't make the best decision when you're in fight or flight. Your brain is literally, all the blood goes to your legs and your arms and you're ready to run from the bear, and the brain is not in your brain like thinking about the logical response or the best way to respond to the ex or the kid, like, right? It's just like ready to run or punch someone, which is usually not helpful in these situations. So learning how different strategies that regulate your nervous system, everyone's nervous system is a little bit different, and learning to recognize and kind of change some of those triggers.
Yeah. So this is all great for a parent who's like, I really want to work on myself as a human being.
Yeah.
But parents in these situations that we deal with, they often are like, I need to take care of everyone else first. Mm-hmm. I need to get my kid the help they need. I'd rather get my kid a therapist. I'd rather, save money and pay for this other thing. Like, why? Can you talk about the importance of having someone like you to help a parent regulate and the impact? Because I know it has significant impact on our children. My son, I often talk about when, as an adult, he was on a podcast and someone said, how did your mom, what's the best thing your mom did for you? And he said she kept it together. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, I didn't know I was keeping it together. But can you talk about like the impact that has on the children, any kind of kid, but especially high needs kids in a situation like this?
Yes. So I think of it like when you're on the airplane and they tell you, right, like if the oxygen masks come down, put yours on first. Like you love your kid, but if you pass out trying to get it on your kid, then like you're both done, right? Yeah. And so as the parent, especially if you are the only stable person, adult in their life that they can count on, the most important thing is your mental health. Because it doesn't matter. I mean, therapy for your kids is great, and like do both. But if you have, if there, for some reason you do have to choose, like you want to, take care of yourself first, because if you are really struggling with mental health issues, you are so stressed out and overwhelmed all the time, you are triggered all the time, sending your kid to a therapist once a week isn't going to be enough to really help them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can be the parent you want to be, you can learn how to process all the emotions, get out of fight or flight, and be the parent you want to be during all the hours that you have them, that is going to do so much more for them. And then yes, get them therapy too. But if you had to pick, they're going to have you forever, right? Like you are going to be their person forever. You're the person they look to. And them getting therapy isn't going to help if the rest of the time they see their mom or their dad, their sane person that they need is not doing well. That's what they're going to like copy and see. And that's going to be what they hold on to the most.
Yeah. Are there certain mistakes that people make about parenting? Like, don't people think, well, I should know how to do this, right?
Yeah,
Like how come everybody else knows what they're doing?
Yes, I think that's like one of the biggest myths is like you're just supposed to know how to handle your kids' behavior. Like you should just know. And then we like see everyone else post about all the great things their kids are doing online. And then we think that we're like the only ones that feel overwhelmed or so stressed out or out of control. And then I get on the phone with all the moms and they all tell me the same thing. But like we just don't tell each other because of the stigma or whatever. But yeah, there's like, we really only know how to handle our kids' behavior based on like whatever tools we have in our parenting tool belt. And sometimes maybe our parents gave us lots of tools. Usually that's where we get our tools from, is like however we were raised. Maybe your tool belt is super full. Maybe there's only a couple tools in there. Your parents were doing their best. You're doing your best with however many tools, but you might just not have the right tools for your kid. And then like I have 3 kids and they all need very different tools and very different strategies. And like, that's fine. Like my job as the adult is just to figure out what tools each one needs and like use those to help them be the person that they want to be. But it like makes sense that just because my parents did that thing, that shouldn't mean that that's actually going to work for like all 3 of my different like unique people in my house or all of your kids out there.
Yeah. Now, Melissa, you had some like an interesting career background, which led you to this. Can you talk about that and how it makes you good at what you do and like some of the knowledge you have when we're talking about high needs kids?
Yeah. So when I was 18, I started working with kids in like group homes. I worked in a shelter for teen prostitutes. I worked in group homes for kids that had, for teens with like drug dependency issues. So like in really intense behavioral environments. I met my husband at a residential treatment facility for boys that had been abused. And it was kids with like the most severe behaviors that had to be like physically restrained because they were hurting themselves or others. That's kind of how I started out my career. I went to grad school and thought I wanted to work in the schools as a school psychologist, doing like all the testing to see who would qualify for like services. Got my master's in that, and then they had like this little side thing like to be a behavior analyst, which I'd never heard of, you've never heard of, no one's heard of it. But I did that like because I'm an overachiever and it was just a few more classes, and then like loved like the science of behavior and the science of human behavior and why people do what they do. So actually didn't use my school psych credential, but used, became a board certified behavior analyst. And then I really started working more with kids with autism, and actually opened my own business doing in-home behavioral health services for kids with autism. Through medical insurance, and it started out with just me, and it grew to having 75 employees, which was so much fun. But there were just a lot of gaps in the medical system, which I think a lot of us are aware of, where like that was such a valuable service, but I could only help kids that had already been diagnosed with autism, and like only so much. And I was just seeing this big gap where like families needed a lot more support. It was like kind of just like, here, like, let me just print out a plan for you and give it to you. And like, do you have any questions? And then like, I'll check back on you in a month. And that, it doesn't work for a lot. There's a lot of reasons and barriers that come up for us when we try to like really change our behavior to change our kids' behavior. And so I started doing parenting coaching so that I could really give parents exactly what they need and kind of fill in all of those gaps. And then just loved it. And yeah, sold the other business and have just been really enjoying just the change we see in families when parents really just like figure out exactly what their kid needs and know how to like confidently respond to whatever their kid's doing. It just changes everything.
Yeah. So, you know that I'm a New Yorker, and sometimes we'll talk to people in different parts of the world who tend to be, I'll give the quote, like a little more woo woo about stuff, but you're not woo woo. There's like science and, analysis and everything that you bring to this.
Yeah.
It's not just like a feel goody kind of.
Yeah. Everything is like research based, like best parenting practices of what it really shows will change human behavior. But like it's like different for different kids, like personalities or profiles. And so like I can kind of sort through all there's so many great parenting books out there. A lot of my clients have read lots of those books and then just become more and more confused because they kind of have contradictory information. And I can be like, this is what's going to actually work for this kid, but try this for this kid, because every kid is different. And so research shows a lot of different things that work, but then there's like the science of like what's actually going to work for your kids, like situation and profile and for your family.
Yeah. So kids, I mean, obviously kids are all different. We're all different, but are there some specific tips, like you mentioned, the music and journaling, but any other ideas for what parents can do to work on themselves, especially considering that our audience is under tremendous ongoing stress, not directly from their kids, but from their outside environment. And of course, they have to kind of keep it together as much as possible for these kids.
Yeah, I think just like giving yourself permission to take really good care of yourself through this is like the best thing. Like if you need a permission slip, like I signed it and I'm giving it to you, like you as the parent in the situation have to take such good care of yourself so you can keep fighting for your kid. You can keep doing everything that you need to do. And so that would be like the biggest thing, is just like often we just don't give ourselves permission to do that, or we don't prioritize it. We put ourselves last and then we're like, we run out of time and energy. And so it doesn't happen. So like that would be the biggest thing, is just like making sure you're taking great care of yourself. And the more stressful things get, the more time you need to spend on your own mental health and your own self-care. And then the biggest thing you could do with your kids during this time too is just like anytime you can just get like one-on-one quality time with the kid, even if it's like 5 or 10 minutes, like just doing whatever they want to do, like not being in mom mode, not like correcting them or making a teaching opportunity, just like being with them, doing their favorite thing for like 5 or 10 minutes a day can really make a big difference in like your connection and their behavior, in them just feeling like known and loved and safe.
Yeah. I've heard similar advice about how kids desire two things: attention and control. And what you just described, it's like you doing what they want to do for those few minutes. That gives them your full attention, and it's something that they've chosen. And again, it's not like a teaching moment. It's not studying. It's not practicing a musical instrument. It's just like trying to get down to their level and have fun and enjoy yourself. So even if it's like playing a video game together with them.
Right. Playing dress up, playing whatever they're into. Just making that a space for that time can just like, that investment gives you like such great dividends.
Yeah. And does it matter the age of the kid if you're dealing with teenagers versus like really young kids?
It works for all kids. Like your little ones are going to like love it, right? And your older ones are going to be like, no, I don't want to. So sometimes like, but they do want to. So with teens, you might need to be a little bit more sneaky, where it's like, going for a walk together, going out to, their favorite restaurant together. Doing something that maybe an activity they like to do.
I was thinking food, like bribing them with food.
Right. Yeah. Car rides can sometimes be good for that because you're like trapped. But they do want that. They're just like in the phase where they're not going to say it as much. But the young ones are just like, yes, more. I love it usually.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So Melissa, how can people find you?
Yeah. The best way is just to DM me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook at Confidently Mommin. And so, I'd love to hear messages with your questions or what's going on with your kids, and I'd love to see how I can help.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, talk to you later.
Okay, bye.